Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Always fun.
Today, we're going to be looking at the work of James F.T. Bugental,
All right.
a pretty key figure
Yeah.
in humanistic therapy.
Yeah.
And we're going to be focusing specifically on
Okay.
his book, The Science of Being Alive,
Interesting.
which was actually originally published in Russian.
Oh, well, in Russian.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, very cool.
So the book delves into these really fascinating dialogues
I don't know.
between therapists and their patients.
Right.
And that's kind of what we're here to unpack today.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
It is interesting to think about
Yeah.
these ideas resonating
Mm-hmm.
in a completely different cultural context.
For sure.
But, at its core,
Yeah.
I think Bugental's approach really speaks to
Yeah.
a pretty universal
Yeah.
human desire
Yeah. What's that?
to move beyond
Okay.
just existing
Uh-huh.
and to step into a state of truly being alive.
Being alive. That's interesting. That phrase really jumped out at me when I was reading this book. It feels so much more active and vibrant than just living.
Right.
He makes a big distinction between those two things, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
For Bugental, living is
Alright.
almost like being on autopilot.
Uh-huh.
Like you're going through the motions,
Yeah.
maybe even accomplishing things,
Oh,
but without
yeah.
really engaging with your experiences
Okay,
or
yeah.
your emotions.
So it's like going through life
Yeah.
in a bit of a daze.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
Whereas being alive
Okay.
is about turning up the volume on everything,
Okay.
feeling it all more intensely.
Yeah. Real intensely.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's great.
So being alive is about embracing vulnerability,
Okay.
authenticity, and facing those uncomfortable truths that we often try to avoid.
Okay.
And that's where things get really interesting.
In these therapy dialogues.
So that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah.
What does the shift from living to being alive
Okay.
actually look like in practice?
Well, one of the things that Bugental highlights is
Okay.
the concept of resistance.
Resistance.
Yeah, we often think of resistance as like
Mm-hmm.
being difficult or stubborn,
Yeah.
but he sees it as
Yeah.
a natural defense mechanism.
Like our inner alarm system going off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Protecting us from those
Yeah.
potentially overwhelming emotions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So interesting.
And what's fascinating is
Yeah.
this resistance often shows up subtly
Uh-huh.
in the language patients use.
Oh, interesting.
For example,
Okay.
he mentions a patient
Uh-huh.
who kept saying,
Yeah.
I should be happy.
Should.
But the tone
Yeah.
and body language
Mm-hmm.
suggested a much different story.
It makes me think about
Yeah.
how often we use
Yeah.
should statements in our own lives.
Right.
It's like,
It's like we're constantly
Yeah.
measuring ourselves against some external standard instead of listening to our own.
right, our own internal compass.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where Bugental's emphasis
Oh, why?
on the I comes in.
Okay.
The authentic self.
The I, the authentic self.
Yes, he believes that by connecting with our genuine needs and desires,
Okay.
not the ones dictated by society,
Okay.
we can start to bridge that gap
Okay.
between how we think we should feel
Yeah.
and how we actually do feel.
So how does this focus on the I play out in the therapy room?
He encourages patients to use I statements
Okay.
as a way of
Yeah.
taking ownership
Uh-huh.
of their experiences.
Your experiences. Okay.
There's a great example where
Yeah.
a patient initially says,
Mm-hmm.
it's frustrating when people don't listen to me.
It's frustrating when people don't listen to me.
And the therapist gently guides them to rephrase it as, I feel frustrated
Okay.
when I feel unheard.
I feel frustrated when I feel unheard.
Right.
Such a small shift in language,
Right.
but such a
Yeah.
huge difference.
Huge. Yeah. Instead of feeling like a victim
Yeah.
of the situation,
Yeah.
the patient is empowered
Yeah.
to own their feelings
Right.
and take responsibility
Yeah.
for how they respond.
That's huge. Yeah.
Exactly. And that shift is often
Yeah.
facilitated by the therapist's approach.
Okay.
Bugent doesn't see the therapist as
Yeah.
an all-knowing expert,
Okay.
but as a guide,
Okay. I got.
creating a safe space
Uh-huh.
for exploration
Yeah.
and helping patients
Yeah.
discover their own truths.
So it's less about providing answers
Yes.
and more about
Yeah.
asking the right questions.
Asking the right questions. Exactly.
It's kind of like holding up a mirror so the
Yeah.
patient can see themselves more clearly.
That's a perfect analogy.
I like that.
There's a dialogue
Okay.
where the therapist asks a series of thought-provoking questions.
Okay.
inviting the patient to delve deeper into their own experiences without offering solutions or interpretations.
That must be so empowering for the patient.
It is.
To realize that they hold the key to their own
healing and growth. Yeah, and I think that's what makes Bugentle's work so relevant even today.
Yeah.
He offers a roadmap for that journey of self-discovery and transformation.
So powerful.
A journey that's available to all of us.
That's a powerful thought.
It is.
Yeah, so we've talked about Bugentle's core argument.
Yes.
The role of resistance, the importance of embracing the I and the therapist as a guide.
A guide.
This has already been so insightful.
It has.
But before we go any deeper, let's pause for a moment.
All right.
And we'll come back.
Sounds good.
And we'll explore some more of the nuances of Bugentle's work.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so we're back.
Back again.
Ready to dive even deeper.
Let's do it.
Into the world of James F.T. Bugentle.
Okay.
We've already touched on some key concepts from the science of being alive.
Right.
But I'm really eager to explore how his work kind of fits into the larger context of humanistic therapy.
That's a great place to go next.
Okay, cool.
To understand Bugentle's work, you really have to remember that humanistic psychology emerged as a response to some of the more rigid and deterministic views of the human psyche.
You mean like the ideas that were just products of our past?
Yeah.
Or driven by...
Yeah, unconscious urges.
Unconscious urges, right, okay.
Yeah, humanistic therapy shifted the focus to the individual's subjective experience, free will, and potential for growth. It emphasized things like self-awareness, personal responsibility, and the search for meaning.
It sounds like a much more optimistic and empowering view of human nature.
Yeah, instead of focusing on what's wrong with us, it's about what's right with us and how we can become the best versions of ourselves.
That's a really good way to summarize it. And Bugentle's work really embodies that spirit.
He does. He sees therapy as a process of helping people move from a state of just living to a state of truly being alive.
And that brings us back to that powerful concept of being alive.
Yes.
How does he actually define that?
He describes it as a way of being in the world that's characterized by authenticity, presence, and a deep connection to one's own experiences and emotions.
So it's not just about feeling happy or content all the time.
No, it's about
being fully engaged with life.
Yeah.
Even the difficult parts.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's about showing up for your life with all its messiness and complexity and embracing it fully.
I imagine that takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
Especially in a world that often encourages us to numb ourselves. Or avoid discomfort.
For sure. And that's why Bugentle emphasizes the importance of things like self-compassion and acceptance.
Self-compassion.
Yet he believes that we can only truly grow and transform if we create a space of kindness and understanding for ourselves.
That resonates with me.
Yeah.
It's so easy to be critical of ourselves.
It is.
Especially when we're,
when we're struggling.
Yeah, struggling or making mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. But I can see how self-compassion could be a powerful tool for change.
Absolutely. It allows us to acknowledge our imperfections without shame.
Without shame.
And to approach our challenges with a sense of curiosity and openness.
Openness, exactly.
Yeah. Now, you've obviously spent a lot of time studying Bugentle's work.
I have.
I'm wondering, how has it impacted your own life and your own journey of being alive?
That's a thoughtful question.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's had a profound impact on how I approach both my personal and professional life.
That's great.
I'm more aware of my own tendencies towards resistance. And I'm more intentional about cultivating self-compassion when I stumble.
That's inspiring to hear.
Oh, thanks.
It's a reminder that these aren't just abstract concepts. These are...
There's tools we can use
to create real and lasting change.
Lasting change.
Look at our lives.
I completely agree. And I think that's what's so compelling about Bugentle's work. He doesn't just offer theories. He provides a framework for personal growth and transformation.
Important.
That's accessible to everyone.
That's great. And a big part of that framework, as we've been discussing, is the role of the therapist.
Right.
Can we dig a bit deeper into how Bugental sees that relationship?
He uses this beautiful metaphor of the therapist as midwife.
A midwife.
Just as a midwife.
Okay.
Supports a mother during childbirth.
Yeah.
A therapist helps patients bring forth their own innate capacity for healing and growth.
So it's less about the therapist having all the answers.
Exactly.
More about...
Yeah, it's more about creating the right conditions for the patient to discover their own truth.
I like that he talks about the importance of
congruence.
Congruence, which means...
Which means the therapist is genuinely themselves in the therapeutic relationship.
Yeah.
Not hiding behind a professional facade.
That makes me think about the power of authenticity.
Authenticity, yes.
When we see someone being real and vulnerable, it gives us permission.
It does.
To do the same.
It's powerful, right?
Yeah, and it highlights the transformative potential of the therapeutic relationship.
Exactly.
When we feel seen and understood.
Yeah.
It creates a safe space
to
explore those parts of ourselves
yes.
that we might have been hiding or denying.
It's like those parts of ourselves finally feel safe enough to come out into the light.
And I imagine that can be incredibly healing and liberating.
It's true. And it's in those moments of genuine connection and vulnerability that real transformation can occur.
I love that.
It's where we start to shift from merely living to truly being alive.
That's such a powerful image.
It is.
So we've explored Bugental's place within the humanistic movement, his unique approach to therapy, and the profound impact his ideas can have on our lives.
For sure.
Before we wrap up this incredible deep dive, let's take a short break. And then come back and consider what all of this means for our listeners. Wow, we've been on quite a journey.
We have.
With James F.T. Bugental today.
Yeah, his ideas are
so rich.
And
thought-provoking. It's like every layer we uncover reveals even more depth.
Yeah, and, you know, while we've covered a lot, I think it all kind of comes back to this one question.
Okay, what's that?
What does it really mean to be alive in the way that Bugental described?
It feels like a paradox a little bit.
It does. Right.
We're all technically alive.
Right.
But he's pointing to something much deeper.
Exactly.
Something more intentional.
It's not just about existing. It's about truly experiencing life in all its fullness.
In all its fullness. I like that.
And I think what's so compelling about Bugental's work is that he offers us a path.
Okay, a path
to access that aliveness.
Okay, so it's not just about reading his words.
No.
It's about taking those words and
weaving them.
Yeah, weaving
into
them
the fabric of our own lives.
Into the fabric of our lives. Okay, but where do we even begin?
Well, it might sound simple, but I think the first step is to start paying attention.
Paying attention.
To become more aware of our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors.
Okay.
To notice those moments when we're on autopilot. Just going through the motions.
So it's about becoming more mindful.
Exactly.
Of how we're spending our days and where our energy's going.
Precisely. And from that place of awareness, we can start to make different choices.
Different choices, okay.
Choices that are more aligned with our values, our passions, the things that make us feel truly alive.
And I imagine those choices will look different
of course,
for everybody.
Absolutely. There's no
one-size-fits-all.
One-size-fits-all, approach to this. For some people, it might mean prioritizing creative expression.
Okay.
For others, it might be deepening connections with their loved ones.
Okay.
Or immersing themselves in nature.
It's about finding what truly nourishes you.
Exactly. What nourishes your soul.
But it's not just about identifying those things, right?
No, it takes commitment.
It takes commitment.
But I think Bugental would remind us that we're worth the effort. That our aliveness, our well-being is something to be cultivated and cherished.
I love that. So as we reach the end of our deep dive today, what's one piece of advice inspired by Bugental that you would offer to our listeners?
I would encourage them
to
embrace the journey.
The journey.
The journey of self-discovery, of growth, of becoming more fully alive.
Fully alive.
It's not always easy.
Right.
There will be bumps along the way.
For sure.
But it's a journey worth taking.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
On this deep dive into the work of James F.T. Bugental.
Absolutely.
We hope it sparks some inspiration and maybe even
for sure.
A little more aliveness.
A little more aliveness.
In your own life.
In your own life, yeah.
Until next time.
Until next time.
Keep exploring.